everybody. Welcome to our first meeting of the new year, 2018. Call the meeting to order, please. Council, can we have a resolution to adopt the various minutes on the 2.1?
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Did anybody hear the welcome part? Okay. Anyway, okay. Welcome to our 2018 first meeting in January. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I guess we've already got a mover and seconder for the 2.1 adoption of the various minutes that are listed there. So, Council, all in favor? Thank you. Passed. No objections. Moving ahead to the 2.2, the public hearing report. Someone like to bring that resolution forward, please. Councillor Peak?
Yes. That the public hearing report for 905 War Street from December 11, 2017 be approved.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Traynor, thank you. Anything further on that? No. All in favor? Carried and opposed. Okay, 3.1, adoption of tonight's agenda. Do we have any amendments?
Yes, there are a few.
Councillor Peak?
Yes, I'm requesting as a late item to bring forward a reconsideration, and I believe that we could place it under unfinished business. It's a reconsideration for the McLaughlin property.
Yeah, it's 9.2. I think, yeah.
We vote.
Is there any-
That's where you do the voting.
Okay.
9.2.
So we'll do that at 9.2 under unfinished business.
Thank you.
Okay, and what else did you have?
Yes, there will be a minor text amendment to the Rural Dividend Fund resolution from November 28th meeting. It's just to adjust it. So that will become under new business or unfinished business 9.3.
Anything else?
And
No, okay.
one more. There's two more, actually. There's a late item that has been added. If you've recently printed the agenda, it will show up as item 12.4, the 2018 budget timeline. There are hard copies on the table there and handed out. And finally, the discussion for the Riga Festival regarding funding. That will also be under unfinished business 9.4.
Thank you. So we could have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening as amended, please. Councillor Peak?
Yes.
Councillor Barkwell, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay, we're moving ahead now to our public hearing. I'd like to call the public hearing to order, please. This is for zoning bylaw amendment number 2017-036 for 523 Stoner. And I'll just outline the public hearing process now. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. During this public hearing, anyone who believes that his or her interest is affected by the proposed development will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaws that are the subject of this hearing. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received concerning the subject bylaws have been made available to the public. Council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaw will take place when the bylaw is considered after the conclusion of the public hearing. At that time, any questions of staff will be for clarification purposes only. I will be inviting the public to come forward and present their comments. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record. Speakers are encouraged to limit their remarks to 5 minutes and should include all of the relevant information in their presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded for all persons to speak a second or third time once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. I would now ask the Director of Development Services to introduce the first item, please, or introduce the topic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As noted, it is a rezoning application for 523 Stoner Street.
The rezoning application is to rezone the property from RSD3 to RSD1 in order to facilitate a subdivision of the property from one lot into two lots. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, now, do we have any correspondence to this?
The only correspondence was just received this evening in hard copy and handed to two councillors. Should be on your table there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we have, no, there's no opportunity for the, this was one.
You could ask if the opponent.
Okay, yeah. Is the proponent here this evening? Would you like to speak to this, please?
Well, my name is Dan Rogers, and I'm the proponent of this. I own 523 Stoner. My wife is here as well, and I'm here to answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, there are opportunities for public input, so I'll ask for the first time, anybody in attendance who would wish to present their views, please come forward. Yes, ma'am.
Dean?
Thank you. Good evening.
Could I have you put the plan up again, please? Thank you.
My name is Pamela Cormio, and I live at 1108 Wharf Street in Trout Creek. And I just wanted to come forward tonight and convey my concerns about a subdivision to an RSD1 for this particular property, and in Trout Creek is in general. I think council has well heard that we do not feel that Trout Creek is in keeping with our character to be subdivided further to RSD1 lots. We have seen the way that Lighthouse Landing has ruined some of the character of our landscape, and we have concerns about further subdivisions happening in the neighborhood. I have particular concerns with this property, particularly, firstly, in where it sits. It has a great proximity to some other very sizable lots, probably, I'm guessing, RSD3 or generous RSD2. So I think that would be quite unsightly to have this particular type of subdivision happen in the forefront of the particular area it exists. But secondly, I have concerns that a subdivision to RSD1 would set a further precedent that other properties will continue with this subdivision, and we will see continued defacing of our neighborhood. I do not think that it supports the character integrity of our homes. And I just wanted to come forward again and mention that tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for a second time, would anybody like to come forward and speak to this, please? And for a third time, is there anybody would like to come forward and speak?
Oh, Dan Rogers again. And I would just like to answer the question about whether this subdivision fits in with the character of our street. As most of you are probably aware, Stoner Street ends at the water, and we are currently 2 houses from the water. It's a dead end on Stoner Street, and also it's a dead end on Woods Avenue. Our block was recently upgraded with a new house across from our street. It doesn't show up on the picture, but the new house, if I could point, is being built here. And if any of you have seen it, it has about 140 feet of frontage, and is actually 2 large houses with a breezeway in between. So on the south side of the street, if we're able to build a new house in the backyard, there will actually be less frontage on the street than on the north side, about 20 feet less. So we've talked to the neighbors. We're trying to come up with a plan that fits everybody's sensibilities, and we actually do think that a new house on the back, in the back yard of our street would actually enhance the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you may.
Corinne Melmoth, 523 Stoner Street. I don't know if the previous person who spoke has any idea that it is us, not developers, that are wanting to sell our house in front and build on our property at the back for our own living, so that we can continue to live in Trout Creek and continue with our plans for retirement, and this being our lifelong plan to retire and stay here till the end, like everybody else in Trout Creek. I don't think we're going to be defacing the property. It wouldn't suit us to build a house that's unsightly that we're going to live in, or to do anything to our present house that we live in to cause anything to be unsightly. We're not selling it to anyone. We're not trying to take over the neighborhood with some kind of unsightly development. We're just trying to
Speak
live
into the
here.
mic, please, ma'am.
We're just trying to live here for as long as we can.
Okay.
The purpose is for that. I retired recently due to some circumstances in our family. My husband's retiring in June, and I don't think that, well, we don't want to leave the neighborhood, and that's why. Has nothing to do with Lighthouse Landing or the unsightly buildings that people are putting up, or the 140-foot long house across the street that's over 60 feet wide that everyone drives down the street going, is that a hotel? We're not going to do anything like that. We're just going, it's going to be smaller than what we live in now. We're downsizing. We have a huge lot to look after that has cedars, all three sides that suck up so much water and so much time to try to keep alive that that less and more zero landscaping and less cedars will probably help the neighborhood. If anyone's drove by there and saw that, all you see is a power pole and a bunch of cedars that are dying. So it's not defacing the neighborhood, it's enhancing people's lives. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Okay, so close the public hearing. Ask for a motion from council, please, to adjourn the public hearing. Councillor Peak? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Holmes. Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you.
You should maybe mention that if it's going to be considered, it'll be later.
Yeah. Okay, this will be, subject will be considered later in the agenda as well. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're into our delegations, 5.1. And we have Katrina McCowan.
Hi,
Who's who here?
I'm Katrina McEwen, and this is Kay Byron, and we're from the Penticton and Area Access Center.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us today. It's great that we have so many people. I have a quick slideshow. We will try, and it works. Okay, so the Access Center, the reason that we're here tonight is because we really want to raise awareness about what the Access Center does for the community of Summerland. We're based out of Penticton, but we also have an office here in Summerland that's run out of the food bank. I joined as the executive director last May, and it's an incredible organization. I'm absolutely humbled to be part of it. And one thing I really realized early on is that people don't know about the Access Center. So that's why I'm here. I'm not asking for money. I just really want to spread the awareness of the Access Center in the hopes of creating support for our community. So poverty everywhere is going up. Everybody knows that. In Summerland, the average single family home costs about $600,000. The mortgage for this is equal to nearly 70% of Summerland's annual median income, which means it's not affordable for most people. As we know, also the rentals in Summerland are really hard to come by and really expensive. This is creating a huge problem all around the Okanagan, all around the province and the country. The average price of a single family home has climbed nearly 70% in the last 4 years. So the vision of the Access Center is for an inclusive community with opportunities for all. Our mission is to alleviate the effects of poverty through advocacy, awareness, and action. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So who do we help? We advocate for the people in our community who have nowhere else to go. So these are the people that have gone through so much in their lives, and they're facing all sorts of barriers. And what we do is we work with them one at a time to break down those barriers so that they can move forward with their lives. Most of you are probably familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and most of us are fortunate enough to be at the top of this, where we're looking at renovations for our homes or finding our purpose in life. But the people that we're dealing with right now are facing their basic needs. They come into the Access Center in a crisis. They're looking for basic housing. They're looking for food. They're looking for a coat. They're looking for shoes. And I'll never forget bringing a pair of shoes and putting it on the free shelf. And this guy just completely over the moon about these. And he put them on, they fit, and he took the ones that he wore and he threw them in the garbage. And just, we'd made his day with that pair of shoes. So those are the sort of people that we're helping. So our main office is in Penticton, and Kay is the Summerland Outreach advocate here. And then we also have another advocate in the South Okanagan who works in Princeton, Oliver Nasoyus and Karamias. So we have a few different programs. We have the Legal Advocacy Program. We have the Disability Advocacy Program. We do resource and referral for around the Okanagan, South Okanagan. And we have a free tax site. The tax site we open for 2 months, March and April, in a different office. And then we help people all the way through the year as well out of our office. And we help people up to 10 years of taxes. So our impact, everybody loves to hear about impact. Last year we helped over 15,000 people in this community and in Penticton. Our free income tax center completed almost 1,500 tax returns. This freed up $6 million for the people that came into the tax site. So this means, when you do taxes, you get all those benefits that you can't get unless you have done your taxes. So all the GST and the child benefit and the disability, all of those things. And all of that money is going directly back into our communities. These are not people that go to Mexico in the winter. These are people that spend that money right back in our community. So we feel like it's a valuable service. But none of those stats really matter to the clients that we serve. We serve one client, one issue at a time. And Kay's just going to tell you a little bit about a couple of the clients that we've been helping.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Kay Byrne, and I've been with Access since the end of May of this year, of 2017. And I've got 35 years of experience helping those in need of help, things that they can't do themselves. In Alberta, I was on the opposite side of agencies in government. I was working on a personal level, in the schools, and parenting. When I've come here now, I work with Penticton Access, and I see the opposite side of government. And I understand the complexities between what a person needs and what the government can provide, and how we all have to work together. My job as an advocate, I help assist with varieties of applications, income assistance, PWDs, persons with disabilities, Canada pensions, old age security, and any resource or referrals, legal, housing, brain advocacy, the Brain Injury Society. We all try to work together to fill a need for our people in our community. I'm going to tell you one of our clients. Terry was homeless, and he had no job, no home. With the help of community and the agencies, we were able to find him a place to stay, and now he has a suitable housing with a new job that he absolutely loves. He had a dog, a small little dog named Scruffy, had to go into the dog control because there was no place for the dog and Terry. with Terry now being helped by the community, him and Scruffy have now come together again. PetSmart has given donations for the dog's well-being, food, toys, a dog bed, and they're all very happy, and Terry is still working, and they're all very happy. Another client in Summerland, he was assaulted 3 years ago in Kelowna. One of the biggest struggles that he's having is the fact that he cannot get a doctor to see him. And it has been a struggle. Instead of looking at his physical injuries from being assaulted, being hit with a shovel, they're looking at mental issues. And he is frustrated. He's dumpster diving for food and clothing. And since I've been there, we are now through the process. We are just waiting for a doctor in Penticton because we've had to get him to go to Penticton. And we're just waiting for his PWD to be completed so he can move forward. Our hopes at Penticton Access, hopes that continued support from Summerland, because I am in the food bank here, and that our members and clients can be an active member of Summerland community. Thank you.
So this is our small but dedicated team. We have 6 of us. Most of us are part-time. And these are our partners and sponsors. We're so grateful to our partners and sponsors for supporting us in all the work that we do. And we have a call to action, which we won't really get into, but if anybody's interested in more information about the Access Centre and how you can get involved, we'll leave some information here. Collaboration is a huge priority for all of us. We are really proud of the relationships that we have in the South Okanagan with a lot of the other nonprofit groups. We try to work together as much as possible. And if anyone has other connections that you'd like to connect us with, we're always happy for that. There's lots of ways you can support us besides giving money. You can support us at events. You can run a fundraiser. You can volunteer with us, or just bridge us to other communities or individuals in the area. And I just want to thank you all for having us. And any questions?
Thank you. Questions, Council? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you for that presentation. I think it's very valuable work that you're doing.
Thank you.
My question is, do you have collaboration with the Summerland Resource Centre? I note that some of the things that you offer, they're also offering that here, and I wonder if you do work within that facility or if there's some overlap there.
Yeah. The Summerland Resource Centre? Did you say the Summerland Resource Centre?
Yeah, at the food bank and the Summerland Resource Centre just across the street. I'm just wondering if there's a partnership or not.
There isn't a formal partnership with the Resource Centre. There is with the food bank, but we're currently, we just got funding for a bunch of things that are making us a lot more organized. So we're building a list and we're following up, and this is part of the whole year plan, is to get more on board. But really where we're really in the community is Penticton right now, but my focus is to increase the outreach areas. So up to this point, there hasn't been a lot of time or energy put into Summerland for the Access Centre or for the South, but we want to change that. Right now, Kay is working 2 days a week here. We'd like to increase that to 4 days a week, because we're helping about 40 people a month up here right now, but there's a lot more need for it. So with that will come more of the partnerships in Summerland.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, mine is kind of more or less the same question, just to follow up on that.
Yeah.
I presume that you and the Resource Centre share a lot of the same clients, and obviously if you work out of there, your communication is quite good with each other. And I see John here, so maybe you can help out with this answer. But I was trying to understand what is the differences of the mandate, of your mandate, compared to the Resource Centre's mandate.
I'd have to ask what the Resource Centre's mandate is. I don't know what it is. Who's John? Oh.
Well, I guess you might as well, John. Yeah.
First of all, the food bank and the Resource Centre are one organisation. We're not two separate organisations. But the Penticton Area Access Centre has been partnered, if that's the right word, with us since before the resource centre was even built. At that point in time, Crystal Kruger had Kay's job, the job that Kay has now. And she was actually one of the people that were instrumental in us building the resource centre, because we felt that if we were able to facilitate the agencies like the Access Centre, then we would be able to better serve our clients. So we are not social workers within the Food Bank Resource Centre. We're a community facility that facilitates agencies just like PAAC to come and do what they do best with the clients that we have there. And we very much appreciate having them. We very much feel that they're partners in our process. And we certainly, if there are any questions about that kind of relationship, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's good, thank you. That, as Councillor Holmes just said, it does explain relationships much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions, Council? If not, I'd like to thank you ladies very much
Thank
for
you for
coming this
sharing.
evening.
Thanks.
It's great work you're doing, and we appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, we need a resolution to receive, please. Councillor Peak, Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Passed. No objections, thank you. Now moving ahead to 5.2, District of Summerland Audit Service Plan. This is Darcy?
No, it's Carolyn Gillis this evening. Carolyn Gillis from M&P.
Ah, okay. See, it's
Darcy sends his regrets,
It
unfortunately.
can be very confusing for me. Anyway, carry on.
Good evening, Council, Mayor and Council, staff and community members. I'm here to present the ever-exciting audit service plan for the 2017 audit for you. This will be the 4th year that M&P audits the district, so I will fly through this a little bit quickly, but please stop me, or please do ask the questions as they come up, or we can go through them at the end. So I understand you have received our audit service plan, and I'll just flip right into it. So in terms of the technical side of things, there's really no new groundbreaking technical accounting assurance developments this year, so that's nice and clean for this year. In terms of the audit, there's 3 main parties. There's management, there's yourselves, Mayor and Council, and there's M&P as your auditors. So I'd like to just go through a brief summary of some of the key responsibilities and how those 3 parties are different. Management.
Could I just interrupt?
Absolutely.
Because in your presentation, it's prior to those responsibilities and those arcs. So if I may, Mr. Mayor, could I have a question? Yes, it's on the key changes and developments, and it's under reporting future accounting standards. My question has to do with the topics of assets, PS 3210, contingent asset, and contractual rights. If perhaps you could just give a brief outline of what those contain or have to do with the audit, that would be helpful.
Certainly. So each quarter, the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board, which is a nice mouthful, we abbreviate it to PSAB, sometimes it gets shortened to PSAS, release updates to the accounting standards. So again, that's quarterly. Incoming for 2018, there has been some they truly are mostly clarifications on some required presentation, disclosure, measurement of the 4 types of buckets, if you will, there. Related party disclosures. Summerland doesn't have any related parties for accounting treatment purposes, so you're nice and clear of that one. PS 3210 is clarified, just truly added some language around definition of some assets. I don't expect any impact to the district at all for the financial statements for 2018 nor going forward. Contingent assets. Similarly, the Public Sector Standards Board has added some language to really narrow the scope of what is considered a contingent asset and how, in the case that one would arise, how it gets reflected in the financial statements. And contractual rights is actually very, very similar. They've added some language around the required disclosure of the contractual rights within the financial statements.
That's very clear. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So management is actually responsible for assessing and doing the footwork in determining how those accounting standards impact their financial statements. That's bullet number 2 there. It is actually, the financial statements truly do belong to management, and M&P is strictly the auditor of them. Management's responsible for establishing and maintaining the accounting policies, the financial reporting systems and controls, including those designed to prevent and detect fraud in the statement. Management's also responsible for providing to M&P, your auditors, written confirmation of the representations relating to significant and material financial reporting items and disclosures. So if anything is new or complex, we do explicitly discuss with management, often at length, to ensure that their goals and your financial statements are truly reflected. M&P's responsibility in the audit is to report whether the 2017 consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects, financial position, results of the operations, cash flows of the district in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. We also provide reasonable, however not absolute, assurance if detecting misstatements, fraud, or noncompliance with laws and regulations which have a material effect on the financial statements. Our last responsibility, as a summary, is that we must conduct our audit with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. Your responsibility in all of this, Mayor and Council, is to review and approve the consolidated financial statements, maintain oversight of management to ensure integrity of accounting and financial reporting systems. And lastly, that last bullet point there is to identify additional areas of concern for M&P to consider when undertaking the audit. Of course, you always have a direct line to your auditors and can request a meeting at any time. Your deliverables. So we keep you informed of the effective timing, relevant new proposed financial reporting requirements. There's a lengthy, more detailed appendix to all of those future developments, including past 2018. Communicate effectively all of our plans for the audit this year and future years, including this document, our audit service plan. At the conclusion of the audit, I'll be back up here presenting to you our audit findings, as well as a management letter if we feel it's appropriate. In terms of timing, we've completed the interim audit for the district. That was completed November, December. Our year-end procedures will commence in March, with final deliverables anticipated in mid-April. As with all audits, we're required to confirm our independence to the district. M&P, its senior management, and all partners are confirmed we're fully independent of mayor and council and staff. Your audit team, senior audit team for this year, 2017 year, is the exact same as 2016. Our fee for the audit this year, our base quote is $22,850, which is consistent with our September 2014 proposal. After that flows all of the appendices, and I'd like to just flip back to our executive summary. For this year, we propose to use $1.08 million as overall materiality. I understand there's been a question come forward about the materiality this year, as it has increased. The base for materiality is continues to be the same. So this is based on 3% of our estimated 2017 revenues, which was based on the Q3 results. So this methodology which we apply to determine our materiality is consistent with the industry. A couple of years ago, M&P undertook a study of actually our industry peers to determine where we flowed in terms of our methodology. And we found that audit firms for municipalities were using between 2 and 7%. So our range for actually across the country for municipalities, we use 2 to 4, and you're smack in the middle at 3%. Now this is based on what we determine the users will tolerate for material misstatements, as well as future use. On top of this, we track all variances. So this is anything that's deemed non-trivial, we track that throughout. It gets accumulated and discussed in a fair amount of detail with management. We also determined that the user risk for the financial statements is overall quite low, so we feel that this materiality is appropriate. And with that,
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barkle, thank you very much. Questions, Councillor Barkle?
Yeah, on the issue of materiality, I did some searching on the internet and couldn't find a lot.
Microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. Did you say that, was it all municipalities in general, or just the ones that MNP did use to range between 2 and 7%?
that's actually our industry peers.
Yeah, okay. Because the only one I could find was Vernon, which was $1 million, and they're 3 times the size of Summerland, which, you know, there's many factors. I think I'd like to look into that a little bit more, and I guess the only way we can do that is to look at Penticton, Oliver, Suias, and other communities in the province. $1 million seems like a lot of money.
Sure. Let me speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah.
So it's you're right. It's a big number, absolutely, and I understand your concern, and thank you for bringing it forward. Materiality isn't it's not a hard line. So on top of this concept of materiality, MNP as auditors, we complete actually it takes a number of days to fully assess the risks within the district's financial statements. So for something like dog licenses, I don't expect, you know, a $500,000 error to pull up the dog licenses. Whereas something like a DCC could be a little bit more complex. So I'll direct the staff to spend a little bit more time there because I've assessed that it's a higher risk. So, you know, I could go on with examples. But there are certain areas within the audit, within management's financial statements, which are lower risk, and those which are higher risks. And it is that higher risk section that we, as your auditors, do a lot more work in.
I have one question. So how much has that materiality changed over the last couple of years, or from the previous year to this year?
The materiality for 2016 was $890. And it is a function of revenues.
Right.
So Summerland is projected to have a great year this year, so that the materiality jump is truly reflective.
Yeah. Okay, no, I just wanted to understand the significance of the level, because as far as I was concerned, I appreciated what the materiality was before, and I don't see, you know, a large difference with respect to that. But it is explained by the amount of revenue that maybe has been increased with what's been going on in the community. So
yeah, it really does go back to the financial statement users and the risks within those financial statements. It becomes very difficult to compare one set of financial statements to another, even though you may be a similar size municipality or a lot smaller or a lot bigger. Because there may be inherent complexities within those financial statements that's driving that risk assessment of we're going to keep materiality significantly lower, or we determine that because of our history, because of the controls in place, the low incidents in the past, that we may feel that a higher materiality is appropriate to remain efficient within the audit.
has anybody else got any further questions?
So how do you consider the fact that we have our own utility, the electrical utility, which skews our revenues to the high side compared to, say, a similar municipality that doesn't have an electrical utility? What is the impact on the materiality limit for that factor?
Materiality is determined at the overall financial statement level. and that it is the, so once we've got materiality, you know, overarching all over the financial statements, because that's at the end what we compare to, then we go and break it down and disaggregate the financial statements, pull each piece apart. The utility revenues, you've got consumption part and your base rate, and then your consumption part. Your base rate, everyone's, you know, depending on your rate class, you're all going to pay the same amount. So it becomes less risky.
But just a note on that, just although we do have the electrical utility, and I understand where Councillor Barkwell's coming, we have the electrical utility. Many don't have a recreation department. Regional districts do it. Many may not run a landfill. The regional district does it. So the electrical utility doesn't actually skew it as much as you might think it would, because the makeup of any one municipality, the services that are offered are so widespread.
I know, there is no average municipality. Some might have, everyone has a sewage system, and half of ours do, and things like that.
Yeah. And the testing, when the testing is done, it's earmarked to those specific areas, so.
Okay, any further questions?
Does that answer your question? Some clarity?
Not exactly, but that's no more discussion here.
Thank you. Okay, Council, thank you very much for your discussion and your presentation. And appreciate you being here. I'm sure over the next several months, staff will be spending more time.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Council, could we have a resolution come forward, please, to approve? Councillor Holmes, Councillor Peak, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries, none opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have an opportunity for the public to comment on highlighted items in the agenda. And I would ask that you keep your comments to the 2-minute allowable time, please. And we have a maximum of 15 minutes allotted in our agenda for this opportunity. I'd like anybody that does come forward to appreciate that, and as you get close to your 2 minutes, be prepared to taper your comments out at the 2 minutes. So would anybody like to comment on any of the highlighted items?
My name is Linda Green, and I live at 5709 Century Street. I really enjoyed listening to the Penticton Area Access Centre presentation, and I'm looking forward to the affordable housing project. And I'm just wondering if council has any way of bringing together their views on the Banks Crescent development and the affordable housing and the lack of accommodation for families in need.
Thank you. That'll be considered.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Bubb.
Thank you, John Bubb again. I just wanted to underscore, maybe I didn't say it clearly enough, it caught me a little bit by surprise earlier, but our relationship with all of the agencies, the 14 agencies that we provide office space for, is important. But the Penticton Area Access Centre is almost our go-to organization. When we have someone in trouble, it's normally PAAC that gets the first call. So it's really important to Summerland and to the operation of the resource center. So I just wanted to make sure that was sort of very clear that and it's great that Kay is planning on putting extra time in. She already of the 490 calls that appointments that I talked about in my presentation a couple of weeks ago, I bet that the largest percentage is as a result of referrals to Penticton Area Access Centre, and Kay's work is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Would anybody else like to come forward? Seeing none, we'll move ahead to my report. We're now entering our planning and budgeting period. Council's strategic plan for the coming year will, excuse me, will drive our budget. Those plans will be prioritized within our means that include necessary tax increases, reserve funds, potential funding opportunities, and ultimately will determine whether any borrowing is required or advised. As you may know, we are in the middle of an asset or infrastructure management study. Ultimately, the results will tell us the physical status of roads, pipes in the ground, water and sewer, etc., and buildings. Based on these results, council will understand the priority of need and cost to renovate or replace infrastructure. A time frame will be developed as to when projects need to be completed with the financial requirements. Many of the projects we want to do are in the range of millions of dollars. To put things in perspective, a 1% property tax increase provides approximately $74,000. To sort of bring things back into perspective that commoners like myself try to understand, as a homeowner, many aspects of planning and budgeting are alike to the municipality, although much less complex than the planning we have to do here. That's why we hire professionals. Most of us still must set aside money for major items such as roofs, appliances, and amongst others, vehicle replacement, etc., over and above our day-to-day expenses. There are very few options for most of us to increase income flows. Most planning involves cutting expenses or reallocating dollars, and municipalities really aren't much different than that. Communities like Summerland primarily have a residential tax base at approximately 83 or so %. The balance is mostly industrial. Like most communities in Canada, we are currently in an infrastructure deficit. That means we have not renovated assets at their replacement date, and it's extremely difficult to make a dent in projects such as road remediation where the costs range from $6 to $10 million per project. Our Garnet Valley Road and Water Separation Project was in the order of $6.3 million. We applied and received 66.7% of the total cost through federal provincial grant. In addition, we've been very aggressive, and I have to thank our CAO and staff for being so aggressive and very successful concerning applications for many projects. Our grit removal project at our wastewater treatment facility was valued at $3.2 million. We had applied for funding for this project, and we'd failed to get funding. We were finally successful, and the project is now near completion. What this really says is that we can't always depend on grants. Our only other option is to increase our income either through increases in property and utility taxes or to expand our tax base or other income streams. This is extremely difficult to do. We recognize that many of our residents can only manage the minimum in property and utility tax increases. So essentially, this group up here and our staff have got our work cut out for us over the next several months to satisfy the need for services and remediation, et cetera, through the community. So thank you. That's my report.
Mayor Waterman, I have no report today. All of staff is just getting back to it after the Christmas break, and we will have a full report next meeting.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Okay, we're into 9 unfinished business.
First one's resolutions. There are no resolutions brought forward.
Okay.
9.2 would be the reconsideration.
Right.
So Councillor Peak has asked that reconsideration of the issue, the matter that was brought forward last council meeting be reconsidered. It will be brought forward for reconsideration. If there's a seconder, then council will vote on it. Right now, you're not voting on the matter, you're voting on whether or not to reconsider the matter. So it's on the table with Councillor Peak's amendment to the agenda, and it was looking for a seconder.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. A question for you, Mr. Strachan, regarding this proposal. So,
sorry, just once, you may not ask a question on the proposal. It's only on the merits of reconsidering. It's not in order to talk about anything to do with the proposal itself.
So whether or not we had all the information, is that a question on, or not? I'm just wondering if,
okay. I would
for clarity.
So essentially, though, CEO.
That's in order.
It is in order.
That's okay.
Okay.
Basically, what I would say as CAO is that whether or not you had all the information or not, there was missing there was missing process in how the information came forward to council. Reconsiderations are rare. Staff certainly doesn't generally support them, but in this particular case, I think that there were some missing links as it came forward.
Okay, from the information I've read, that's what I sort of comprehend as well, so I will second the motion.
Okay, thank you. So this, Councillor Barclay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, under section 131 of the community charter, the mayor may bring forward a matter for reconsideration. What section authorizes a councillor?
Council procedure bylaw is
Okay.
what is where the authorization comes. I can give you this section if you want.
Those are
So
specific to our council.
Yeah, so the community charter is the at least, and then with the procedure bylaw. So in the case of the community charter, the mayor, he can insist on reconsideration. When it's a councillor bringing it
No
forward, then it must be voted upon.
And our bylaws say 30 days.
Yeah.
And 30 days.
Yeah, there's no motion required with the mayor's request? Okay.
Just wonder if you can clarify the motion for the audience.
Okay, the motion is reconsideration of the item that came forward regarding 8115 McLaughlin Street.
The matter of rezoning at, I'm sorry, the address is
8115 McLaughlin Street.
That the matter of the rezoning of that address at McLaughlin Street be reconsidered is what your...
Is how it should read?
Right.
Thank you for the tip.
No, it's
Not-
an application for a non-farm use
Sorry.
within the agricultural land reserve.
Right.
It's a team effort.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that application, that matter be reconsidered.
Be reconsidered at this date.
Okay, sorry, we're okay with our seconder?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, on the matter of reconsideration, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. One opposed. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Mayor, you should determine whether you're going to be putting it, typically it would go on later on in the agenda or be tabled to the next meeting.
And I was going to request if we could table it to the next meeting,
Okay.
that
thank
we
you.
could have a reformulated addendum or whatever was necessary to
Right.
bring it forward for the next date.
Okay. Do we need...
So you would make a motion, that would be the motion,
Okay.
and
Councillor Carlson, thank you. Seconder, please.
No, that is the
I've
second.
seconded it.
Oh, second. So that's just...
It's Councillor Peak's motion.
Yep.
And
Oh, I thought we had another motion.
It is, she just
It
made
is,
it.
but it's a second
Okay,
motion for
okay.
me regarding,
Okay, all in favor
Tabling.
for the tabling? Thank you. Motion's carried. I assume unopposed?
No, he
Or
put it up.
Didn't put it up, okay.
He did put it up.
Okay.
I did.
Motion's carried, none opposed. Thank you. Okay, so we're all set there?
May I ask a question,
Go
Mr. Mayor,
ahead, yeah.
about procedure? So at the next meeting, we'll be having a discussion about this as if it had never come forward initially?
That's right, it'll come, a report will come, the applicant will have the opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting, and it'll be like it wasn't on the table to start with.
Okay, so if there is new information or more information, we are able to receive that then?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be an
Okay.
updated report.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Say, Corporal Officer, we have two more?
Yeah, so 9.3 is a minor text amendment to the Rural Dividend Program resolution from the November 28th regular council meeting.
So council, on that meeting of November 28th, we talked about an application for the Rural Dividend Fund for the Arts and Cultural Center. In the third point of that resolution, we said that the district's $25,000 financial contribution to the project be comprised of a $12,500 in-kind staff time and $12,500 of capital improvements from the $250,000 budgeted for the Arts and Culture Center renovation. All we would like to do is amend that to read, to be comprised of $12,500 in-kind, so taking out the word staff time, just in-kind in general, and $12,500 without the words of capital improvement. So it's just $12,500 from the $250,000 budgeted. So the application's been submitted, and there was some issues on the budget. they're very particular with the rural dividend fund, so it would now read that the district's 25,000 financial contribution to the project be comprised of 12,500 in kind and 12,500 from the 250,000 budgeted from the arts and cultures renovation.
So do we need to take that resolution and?
If you can just amend the resolution to that wording.
Okay. Councillor Peak?
I will request the amendment to that motion.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Barkville, thank you. Any further discussion? I think it's pretty straight. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Another one. 9.4.
And a discussion regarding Riga Festival and funding.
Thank you. This one is a little trickier, and I just need some direction from council. The Riga Festival we have supported over the last couple years. Unfortunately, the timing of our grant and aids is still not where we'd like it to be, in that the year starts to come along, and we don't have time to get them all approved or not approved before some of the planning has to start for these events. The Riga Festival, with some of the grants that they apply for, they require my signature stating that they're going to have the financial contribution. We do, last year, because there wasn't timing, I actually took the funds for Riga Festival out of the economic development funds, because it's a growing large-scale festival here. So so they've applied for grant and aid of $5,000 in cash and then some in kind, sorry. And I think that just the indication I'd like from council is not to approve the grant and aid, because you don't have the whole request, but to just allow me to indicate support for their financial request, and that we would do it under the economic development again if we don't have grant and aid funding for it.
Okay.
Because it is still a growing festival. It's still seed money to get it going.
Okay. Councillor Peak?
I think that that's very much in order. This council has looked in the past 2 years at supporting those kind of activities, and I'm sure that there will be some funds, not name a number, but I'm sure that we'll be interested in doing some support in this year's budget as well.
I will need to put the numbers down in the on the application. I'll have to give an indication of what we can support, but it won't be any higher than what they've asked here.
So do you need a resolution?
As long as council's aware that I'm going to,
Okay.
because I have discretion on the economic development funds without council support, but I just didn't feel
Yep.
comfortable doing it without
Yep.
having a conversation.
No, I think we've made it pretty clear over the last 2 years where we want to support the arts, and this particular one is good. Councillor Traynor?
Can you just confirm, is that the same amount as last year, 5,000?
I believe it is, but I didn't have, I only learned of this late today, and it's just the timing, and I didn't have a chance to go back into the financial records to see.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody good with that? Giving
Okay.
CAO direction? Good. Okay. Is that the last one?
That's it.
Okay, we're moving on to 10.1, correspondence items. Quite a list there. Does anybody have anything they want to bring forward? Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are a couple I'd like to bring forward. The first two have to do with SILGA, the upcoming convention. At our convention, it's also considered our AGM for the Local Government Association, and they're calling for nominations so that councillors are aware of that. And also, they are calling for resolutions, so that's something that we should probably start thinking about. I think the deadline is February 27th or something like that for that, and nominations is February the 13th. I just wanted to, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's good,
Well,
thank
we'll
you.
Keep that in mind. Councillor Barkville.
To Councillor Booth, so is a resolution for SILGA sort of the process begun by Councillor here introducing a resolution at our table and us voting on it, and then if that is supported, the mayor or the CEO writes a letter to SILGA and saying we would like to have this resolution on your agenda? Is that?
If I might, Mr. Mayor, when I brought forward the resolution before about the schools, it was simply a matter of me working with our CAO to draft the resolution, and then you might recall I brought it forward at council. And part of the resolution includes the request to push it through to SILGA, and then SILGA votes on it, and then of course it can go on to UBCM, which that particular one did.
Getting it to SILGA is just by...
It's just a matter
letter?
of doing it, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, and then we can submit them, if there's more than one, they can be submitted all at the same time. And then the executive will decide which ones are on the agenda.
It's something we should look carefully at, because it is a good route to go through. You can go straight through to UBCM as well, as I understand, these resolutions. But getting support of SILGA is important in terms of how well it might do at UBCM. So.
UBCM strongly suggests that you
That
go
you get
through your
local.
area association.
Okay, Councillor Peak.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge that we've had letters back from the ministries, two of the ministries that we presented to at UBCM, Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and certainly that's appreciated, as was the meetings with them. The other one I would like to bring forward is the letter from West Kelowna, which speaks to cannabis, and they're looking for support for the opportunity for municipalities to have 50% of the provincial share of cannabis taxes that are collected. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for our executive staff, and I don't know our background discussions, but to have some discussion around that, and whether it would be sensible for us to support this, and if so, for it to come back to us in some form.
I think that would be good. We're actually meeting as a staff group to talk about a number of the issues involved, and so we can certainly add that conversation to that discussion, so that it comes forward to council with some background to it.
Excellent, certainly appreciated.
Perfect example of a resolution that might go forward to SILGA too.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, would somebody like to bring forward the resolution for receiving all the correspondence, please? Councillor Peak. Councillor Barklow, thank you. All in favor? None opposed, thank you. Okay, moving on to development services. I guess that would be looking at the affordable housing report. We're looking at...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Strachan, thank you.
As noted, in your packages, you're receiving the final Affordable Summerland report prepared by Sherry Ann's Consulting. So within that report is a number of items of recommendation that it's quite general, as well as some information about the community, some baseline information. And then staff have further gone to provide council with some recommendations around initiatives that can be undertaken. A lot of these are underway, but we're looking for council's direction to continue those efforts. There's a couple of community groups have projects that are in the works now, and we're participating on those committees to assist where we can, as well as we've got a number of development projects that have come through council recently that are increasing the diversity of housing in the community. So affordable housing projects that are using government funding and so forth will address a certain component of affordability in the community. But there's also a need for housing diversity in our market. This year, Summerland built 60 single-family dwellings, but we didn't build one multifamily dwelling. So there needs to be a diversity in the inventory to increase the diversity of options for people. So that's part of the solution, is with government-granted projects, but also part of the solution is with diversity of development that's taking place in the community. The Chamber of Commerce also has an affordable housing task force that we've been invited to participate on, as well as Councillor Holmes. And they're doing some initiatives around bringing people together to look at projects and look at ways to facilitate more affordable housing projects in the community. And we'll probably be hearing more about that very soon. We're also continuing to work with our bylaws to identify where we've got some hurdles to carriage houses, to secondary suites and so forth. So there's a second round of zoning bylaw amendments that will be coming to council at the next meeting as we dig further into the zoning bylaw and continue the housekeeping work. that we're hoping is going to help facilitate more of those types of units being built in the community. We're also looking at reviewing the land inventories, and we had a little discussion with council about this when we saw the draft report and Sherry presented to council around what opportunities may be available through our land inventory. So we're going to recommending to continue to review that, and just also looking at going forward as far as what the next steps would be in affordable housing strategy in the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council, any questions of the planner, please? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just, one thing that's mentioned as an emergent issue in the affordable housing report there, which I don't think is emerging, I think it's with us, is the issue of short-term rentals. And, it's something that's been with us for quite a while. In 2015, we had both local bed and breakfasts and a local motel owner approach us, asking us to look at regulating short-term rentals, licensing them. And it's something that Penticton has acted on. It's something the RDOS has acted on. And, I think it's something that we really need to look at ourselves. I think we need to look at limiting vacation rentals to people's primary residences. I think, there's a big difference between these multi-listing hosts and someone who just wants to rent out an extra room in their house. And I think we need to recognize that and really take an initiative, because it's a problem everywhere. And so I'd like to include that in the list of resolutions. Is that we do look at short-term rentals and how we regulate those.
Okay, Councillor Peak.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to, I really feel that we have a need for diversification of housing types. When we speak about affordable housing or residential units or the opportunity for multiplexing properties, I think that we can do further work on that. There was a lady that came and spoke about Banks Crescent or other forms of housing, the developments that could come forward. And as Kay and Caitlin speak about in terms of PAC or John Bob or other members of the community that have come forward, I think that we need to have a strategy, that we have some background material that we can speak to and work towards. I don't know if I think that would be a separate workload from what we presently do, so I think that would be up to our staff to come back to us how that might be worked into our plans over the time that we have left on council, but I certainly think that that's something we should be working towards.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Council, that it almost seems like there's not an unconscious push, but when you look at the housing options that are showing up on Kelly and on the RCMP property, and I think we've closed the situation on Morton Street for options, have we? Or
January 26th.
January 26th. Okay, that closes then. So there's a number of things that are sort of almost bursting through the end of last year, and a number of them will be acted on. And if I understand correctly from our planner, some of these things are moving ahead quite quickly in the new year. In the next several months, there will be ground broken and, footings put in, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to see some significant changes to the mix right in the core that'll be much more in the range of, family or single people who want to have housing. So, any comment?
Yeah, there's as we listed, there's the 4 projects that we have council's approved this fall. One being the townhouses on Elliott Street, the other one being down in Togood, the 20 units of multifamily there. That's about to break ground very soon, as well as 29 units on the RCMP property. That's getting close to being ready. And the Kelly Avenue is single-family development, but certainly not the same single-family development that we've seen over the past couple of years here in Summerland. It's smaller houses with secondary suites at a higher level of density in the urban center, which is great to see.
Well, and there's more happening with John Bum's group, et cetera. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Barkle and Councillor Traynor.
Yeah, I note in the report that in Section 5A, one of the projects is the Alliance Church land on the Victoria Road North. And it seems to me that housing for that land, which is on in the agricultural land reserve, if I'm not mistaken, has come up in the past. You're aware of a history with that?
Yeah, aware of it, very definitely, and there's a portion of it that is in the ALR.
Right.
It's the portion behind the church building itself. There's a field area that's fenced off that is within the ALR. That's not part of the proposed development area. It's within the area that's excluded from the ALR.
So it's not on any of the ALR land,
No.
this idea? Okay, great.
No, but part of this process, they're looking at doing some improvements to that field to actually do some of the agricultural components that they do in front of the church at this point in time. There's a number of gardens there. Moving that into the ALR lands as a supplemental to what they're doing or proposing to do for housing.
Interesting concept, yeah. Councillor Holmes.
Just to that, I'd just like to speak to the Chamber's task force on housing. So on January 30th, I believe, which is a Tuesday, there's going to be a public, I don't know what we're calling it, a community conversation about housing. And we're hoping that the Alliance Church will be there talking about their project. And John Bubb doesn't know this, but we're hoping he's going to be there talking about their project as well. So, and BC Housing will be there. And we're going to bring all these different groups together in the community, talking about all the things that are going on, because as the planner said, there is quite a lot going on, and it is quite exciting when you put it all together. And if we get people talking, that's how we can get the ball rolling a bit more. And you never know at a meetings like this who might come out of the woodwork and can contribute as well. So. Councillor Barkwell, if you come out to that meeting, you'll learn all about it.
So apologize to Councillor Traynor. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I was just wondering, where does this report live now, and kind of what happens to it next? And then also, point 11 in the report talks about potential planning for projects in 2018. So if our council was interested in a Summerland affordable housing strategy, is that something we would talk about at strategic planning?
Go ahead first.
It's part of the OCP implementation strategy at this point in time to do an affordable housing strategy. There isn't a schedule for it at this point in time to undertake that, but it has been in your OCP our OCP for some time. So it could be brought forward as a budget item to undertake, or be part of the planning for the next few years to do an affordable housing strategy. And that would essentially build on this framework that's been done as preliminary background data, and then you would take it to the next step and begin to look at land use and long-term bylaw implementation. So not just removing the short-term hurdles that we're talking about zoning bylaw regulations, but how we could shape land use planning over the next few years to offer more opportunities for diversity in housing type, potential affordable housing projects, amendments to DCC bylaws, these larger scale things that take longer to implement versus some of these shorter term ones.
But yes, it would be part of a strategic priority planning session, just because of workload and capacity.
Okay, so for now, this document, I just kind of didn't want it to get shelved. Like, I wanted people to be able to read it and still kind of be on top of our minds. So is there a place where the public can go and read it? And I assume
it'll be posted
website?
on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, it is posted on the website.
Just so we can refer back to it, because it's got good information.
Right,
so.
and that's why, council first talked about it at the committee, the whole meeting, but bringing it back here is what's bringing it more out to the public.
Okay, any further questions of the planner? Councillor Booth.
I don't have a question of the planner, but I just have a comment on the report.
Go ahead.
I thought it was pretty interesting, and this came from people, citizens in Summerland that had the opportunity to post little dots on where they thought the housing option should be in Summerland. And I thought it was pretty interesting that by far the most We Want More section was for a greater residential density in the core of Summerland to increase walkability and support local businesses in the form of multi-house lots and carriage houses. And I would suggest that Elliott Row, that's the name of a business. Sorry, Elliott Street behind the Baptist Church, and what's being proposed at the United Church and on the Alliance Church property, and Kelly Avenue, and the old RCMP building all fit into that category. So it's really good that these things are moving along, and that's exactly what the community is saying that we really need here. Not just the general community, but the business community as well.
I think there's been
downtown and supporting the local businesses.
we've had plans that unfortunately haven't come to fruition over the last decade that we're pushing for some of those options, and with the recession and...
Well, Wharton is another example.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that the recession kind of held things in abeyance for quite a while. Now things are starting to move. Any other questions of the planner? Otherwise, Councillor Holmes, would you like to bring the a resolution forward, please? Since you're...
Yeah, do I have to read all this?
No, you can
Okay.
present it.
Okay, so all that plus G, review licensing and regulation of short-term rentals, something like that.
Want to add something to it? Yeah.
Yeah, would that
Okay.
work? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Seconder, please. Councillor Carlson. Okay. Any further discussion? Well, I'd just like to say that, you know, the comments we've just heard and the questions we had of the planner indicate that we are definitely going to almost see a bit of an explosion over the next year of options in the core. So I think it's going to start hopefully answering some of the concerns that were brought forth earlier by our delegation. So I think we're headed in the right direction. So all in favor? Motion carries, none opposed. Thank you very much. Mr. Strachan, 11.2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a report regarding the OCP amendment and rezoning application for 13610 Banks Crescent. Additional update report. This one includes the review of the aquifer protection strategy by Golder and Associates. So you have a report within your package that we're asking to be received. We'll talk about that report a little bit further. We also have the letter on amenity contributions from the applicant dated January 4th. And the third item is a request for council to consider scheduling a public hearing. So to begin with the Golder Associates report, so council back in October authorized or asked the staff proceed with a third-party review of what was proposed by the Lark Group. So we engaged with Golder and Associates to conduct that review. The package that was provided to Golder and Associates is included in your package this evening. They undertook a review of that strategy with a hydrologist as well as a groundwater expert and a geotechnical engineer. Those three professionals did work as well as discussed, had conversations with the applicant's engineers as well as with Freshwater Fisheries before they produced the report that we just received last Friday. So it arrived in short time to get onto your agenda. So unfortunately, we couldn't get it to you too far in advance of today, but we knew that it was anxiously being waited for, so we wanted to get it into your hands as soon as possible. So that strategy is included in your package. So they undertook that report over a month and a half. We received a draft. We asked for some clarification around a few items and then received the final report, as was mentioned late last week. The report itself has been forwarded to Freshwater Fisheries as well as to the applicant. We understand from the applicant that they will be providing a response. We will be hopefully speaking with Freshwater Fisheries this week to see if they are intending to submit a response to the report for council for the next council meeting. So if we do receive either one of those comments. And then in regards to the amenity contributions, there's a number of components within that amenity contribution that's proposed. One is the removal of the staircase. So there was a discussion in November 2016 about constructing a wooden staircase. Staff had some concerns with that recommendation. We've spoken with council a few times over the past year about those concerns. So it's formally removed from their proposal for amenity contribution. The Latimer Road, the proposal is to upgrade Latimer Road to full collector. Their full expense to do so as an amenity contribution. Contributing $300,000 towards Solly Road, and then $100,000 towards the electrical undergrounding. So this is the area to the east of the development site where there's some overhead wires that would remain when they were finished with the electrical servicing that they're required to do, that they've proposed to put underground as well. So these amenity contributions work their way back into the application. As we discussed with council in October, these are voluntary or negotiated contributions towards the city's works. And they come in through the development agreement. So if council were to proceed and schedule a public hearing and give third reading to the bylaw, they would then be receiving a development agreement. And in that development agreement, there's a lot more detail on how the engineering is going to work, all of the legalese of what's required to make this go from just being a letter into a covenant that's registered on the title for the property, and the legal documents that are prepared by lawyers. Council would then consider that development agreement. That all would happen in advance of the bylaw being considered for adoption. So the covenant gets registered on the title, the agreements are all signed, all the money is locked in, and then council considers giving adoption. So that's the process. So that's why you're not seeing the detail of a legal contract per se at this point in time, because there still has to be a public hearing. Then council will consider third reading, and if it does successfully move to that point, we would then have the legal documents prepared for council to consider. So at this point in time, you received in October the infrastructure components when you had the committee of the whole with Chris explaining our infrastructure components and all the various pieces, as well as with Dave and myself talking about how there's different parts to those contributions, and how there's some pieces that are that fall into just direct cost. For example, the water, it's going to cost them what it costs them in order to provide the services they need for the development. And then the other component, which was DCCs, which we spoke to, other DCC contributions would be, and what DCC projects we have within our bylaws at this time. As a part of this report, we would be suggesting that if this application were to move forward, that council also consider direction around turning Solly Road into a DCC project, adding it to the list that's currently there, which would allow for the full length of Solly Road to be upgraded as a part of a DCC project. Where the amenity contribution comes into that $300,000 that they're proposing, in every DCC project, there's a certain percentage of it that has to be provided by the municipality. So this could be used as that load. It can be added into that to pay that contribution towards it. So those are the various components that we've brought forward over the last 6 to 12 months. Most recently, you've gotten the lion's share of the information. When we started this effort to bring more information to council, it began in February last year. So we're coming around about 11 months. And we listed off a list of information that we really didn't have at that point after we spoke to the public. And now you've received that information to at this point. So staff have recommended that you receive the information and then consider scheduling the public hearing. Because of the number of people that we're anticipating for the public hearing, we've asked the council not pick the specific date and allow staff to find a time that works with facilities so that we can make sure we can accommodate everyone that would wish to participate.
Just a note on that, if we were to schedule a public hearing, we would schedule it in incremental time. So we may schedule, for example, a morning session followed by a temporary adjournment for an afternoon session and an evening session to make sure that it could accommodate various working schedules, and not, some people may want to come to all sessions, but some may just want to be able to say what they want to say. So not sure, depending on the venue, if it's broken down in two. And then the other part of that is that if there was too many people to speak for the time allotted, all you do there is you temporarily adjourn to another day following to make sure that you accommodate and everybody that wants, rather than going to 2 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have a quick question before it escapes my head to the planner. You mentioned that, and I'm not sure whether I heard it correctly, that the improvements to Latimer would make it a collector?
It's to upgrade it to what the traffic study identified as.
Okay, does that?
I believe it was to collector level for Latimer.
Is that correct?
So,
Because I understood with the final comments about Solly, that if it was done the full length, that that would establish it as a collector status road.
Solly Road would be would have more traffic than Latimer, of course, but it's still, Latimer would be carried into that category
Yeah, of
based on
course.
the volume.
But Solly would be classified as a collector road?
That's correct.
Yeah, I see, okay, thank you. That was my just clarification. Councillor Barkle and Councillor Boot?
One of the issues in the report that still is somewhat of a concern is a potential sloughing of the ground during construction. Although sloughing does occur naturally at any unpredictable time, would protection of the sloughing maybe be covered under the environmental protection that's required? Sort of just, normally without, in any sort of construction project, they have to put up screen silts and things like that. Could it be addressed that way?
So the sloughing that's referred to specifically in this report, so let me start at the beginning with that. The fencing and the silt is related to overland flow.
Right.
So that's being dealt with in the sediment and erosion control plan.
Mhm.
So that was something that was envisioned very
Mhm.
long ago, and that plan's coming forward and in place. This is related to vibration carrying through the shallow levels of soil,
Mhm.
causing additional sloughing.
Mhm.
And there are some options that are listed within the Golder report as to how that could be addressed
Mhm.
or how it could be prevented. I think one of the critical pieces is they recommend some testing, so to see how that vibration works. So I'm hoping that we would see some response from the applicant on that issue, specifically around when trucks are coming into the site, keeping the roads graded so that you don't have rails on the road, so the trucks aren't hammering as they come in and out of the site. The construction of note that was of concern was around pile driving and some of these very intrusive types of vibrations, which aren't proposed for the construction site.
Just further to Councillor Barkle's comment, though, I think he's referring to the 1.2 hectares of land that really contains the outlet to the aquifer and the sort of spontaneous eruptions of moisture of water that can happen anywhere above that, and that there's actually 100 meters or roughly 100 meters of open waterway prior to the use of the fisheries actually extracting water. So, there's pop-ups of water in the land that the government land that is part of the fisheries occupied area. And but I was surprised to learn really that they have 100 meters of totally exposed water to their own source. And a good part of the sediment and turbidity that they run into on a more of a regular basis than I was really aware of comes from animal movement, deer, etc., going through the site and causing some turbidity and some sloughing into those individual sources. So it seems to me, there's a difficulty there that hopefully with the monitoring and so on, there could actually be a significant improvement in terms of how fisheries is able to monitor their situation. Thank you. So anyway, it was, and your comment about the trucking and so on, I think they're aware of that. Councillor Carlson.
I have a question regarding the Golder report. Says in the first paragraph of the background, the aquifer has not been mapped by the province and the extent and classification, yield, vulnerability, and demand have not been determined. So, given that, what would it take to have a proper understanding of the aquifer, is my first question. And the second question is, what happens if that aquifer happens to be, well, I mean, we are under the assumption that it's low enough, but it says here that it's not mapped. And so I'm wondering if there's any more clarification and what the risk there is to the district and to the developer and to this overall project. I know it's a pretty loaded question, but I think that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah, it's actually a good question, and it was one of the first things we did was contact the Ministry of Environment to see what information they had about the aquifer, and it's limited. It has not been mapped to its full extent. There's a report that was done in the 80s by Golder for the Ministry of Environment that Council received earlier this year. I think in June this year you received that report. That gives a number of maps within that give an estimation of what the outlying areas of the aquifer's catchment area, and is extends quite far under Hunters Hill and quite extensive. In order to map that, you would have to do, I don't even know what the process would be, but it's quite an extensive area that you would need to survey. The Ministry of Environment didn't carry it further than that Golder report that spoke to the aquifer as a study, more so than actually going out and doing wells to truly locate where it is. This report is focusing on the area, the development area, not the full extent of that aquifer. So that aquifer's catchment area is not truly known by the ministry or available for review other than this report. I think it was 1986 they did that report on the aquifer.
And so digging a giant hole to build a building isn't assumed to be penetrating any aquifers. I mean, that's the whole bottom line of what people are very, very concerned about, and as are we. But, do we have that certainty, I guess, is really the question.
And essentially, this report outlines what these professionals feel is the level of risk that's associated there, and that question is something the council has to weigh with everything that they've received. Is there adequate information for this to move forward to public hearing? As part of the information package, and you have to weigh it in that context.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 questions of you, Mr. Strachan. The $600,000 to upgrade Latimer Avenue to a collector road, is that adequate? Does that amount reflect the actual cost of upgrading that Latimer to a collector road?
So those numbers are the numbers that we provided as a part of the district's review of these works. So those are very estimated numbers. Okay. So when it comes to the development agreement, they'll be asked to upgrade Latimer Road to a collector's status, so what's required. So if that ends up costing $636,000, it costs $636,000. If it costs $585,000 once the detail engineering is completed, that's what it costs. So these are just the best numbers that we have available at this time. Same with Solly Road. We've given an estimate for what it would cost to upgrade Solly Road, but that's not based on detailed engineering. We don't have that detailed engineering until we get to a development plan. So these are numbers that when it comes, they'll only be hardened and become truly a contract when the development agreement is entered into. So further on in the process, but this provides some numbers to council for context, and it's the best numbers we have available based on the information we have.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to confirm that. A question about the development agreement. Is there something that could go in the development agreement that states that if for some reason the construction has to be stopped permanently, perhaps turbidity, perhaps something else, is there something in the development agreement that would, I'm not sure what the word is, that would ensure that the site was free of all construction that had taken place up to that point? So I'm talking about, and we see it all the time, something gets started on a property, concrete is, foundations there, concrete walls perhaps, building a tower, the construction can no longer continue. Finances may be one of the reasons why. I'm not suggesting for this particular one, but I'm wondering if there would be something in the development agreement that would address that possibility, so that we're not left with, Summerland is not left with a partial development with concrete and rebar and mess.
It wouldn't necessarily be something that maybe council would look at as far as development agreement. It would be more of looking at building permits and construction. And it is something that occasionally happens. You certainly have seen it, where a project goes underway and market changes or something happens and then it begins. But that wouldn't necessarily be something that would be in a development agreement. You would, of course, have to address the safety and all the other pieces of that structure. But no, let the CEO maybe weigh in more on this one.
We could look at our options. I don't think we can answer the question tonight to say what vehicle. It's certainly done because it's certainly a concern, as you said, in any construction. So there are vehicles to have it happen, and whether it's at where the conditions get put on, I just can't say for certainty where if council was interested in doing that, where it would be, but we can certainly explore that and find out. That's the best that we can do tonight. It is not impossible to do. There's conditions that can be put on. We just have to figure out where it would make it so that it would stand up and hold.
Okay, thank you. And one other question, and I know that I've asked this of you before, but if you could just answer, bear with me and answer again. Should there be significant risk that comes to fruition as a result of the Banks Crescent development? Presumably, LARC would be responsible financially for taking care of that, the liability. My understanding, though, is that it's likely that the District of Summerland would be named as well. Could you verify that?
I think it would depend a little bit on what are you speaking to? Like what?
So from a risk management position, it's usual than any kind of civic or any construction or whatever that a district would be named because anyone that's going after failed construction would look to the municipality or the local government. If we relied on professional, it'll all come down to the diligence that council does and the information that you had in the reports that went forward. Even if something happened that totally there was something wrong and something happened, it doesn't necessarily mean that the district and its insurance is going to pay, because if it's not negligence, and you've relied on professional consultants and engineers. So it's impossible to answer, and it would be impossible. So when we talk, and Jeremy and I spend a lot of time talking to Municipal Insurance Association in understanding our liabilities, but until it goes to court, you don't know. So you know that there's risk in any every single time we issue a building permit for anything, we go through the process and try to do it right and get our proper professionals, but you don't know if it actually went to court, if you'll be liable or not. So you would likely be named, yes. Whether or not you're likely found responsible, all you can do is look at whether or not you feel that you went through due diligence and relied on the reports. You can approve a dangerous project if something different, if there was something, if you've had the professionals that are saying that it's safe and that you can rely on what they're saying, then there's risky projects everywhere.
Right.
And so what the level of risk you as a councillor feel this is. From the information you have and what you've read, it comes down, as we've written in the report, to your digestion of what that material is and what the level of risk of this is.
Okay, but, so you have answered my question, but I just have one extra one. Thank you for clarifying that. At the end of every report, including this Golder and Associates report, there always is limitations. I mean, they do seal it, they're professionals, but they do provide limitations on, stating we can only give information based on the information that we were given. They were asked to review the report, and they did review the report, and they gave their assessment. So,
it would be the professionals that would be relied upon would be the ones that the developers were using. So the ones that were engaged on the project, the engineers and the professionals that were responsible for the project, not things like the goal. I mean, they would be accessory projects, but they would have their own professionals that would be the ones signing off on it.
right. Although I would, they have their limitations as well that they associate with their professional documents. I'm just trying to make a point that regardless of I guess you've answered my question.
Right. I mean,
we have to assess if the risk is too high or not for
Right.
the district.
I think that of all the things that are in this particular application, that the risk of the actual construction, the actual, the geotechnical aspects, not talking about the aquifer or anything else, it is not that much unusual for construction that's done in many places. It's, for Summerland, it is. We haven't had, it's not a particularly unusual circumstance to deal with. It still is severe or still big, but it's not unheard of. Of all the things that you have to look at and decide whether you're comfortable with it, my thought would be that the risk to insurance isn't one of your highest ones.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the risk, the insurance. I'm talking about the risk to the district if something should fail.
That's what I said.
Okay. Okay.
Councillor Peak and then Councillor Holmes.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would want to reinforce what our CAO is saying in terms of how any project, and for Summerland, this may be a large project. For many communities, it's just part of the dealing with planning and the situations that come along. So understanding those risks is important, but when you have good professionals providing the reports, I know that the public looks at things suspect as coming from the developer, but these are licensed professionals that bring their reports forward. We've had, this is a third-party review by a very legitimate firm, Golder, and Golder has done previous work in this area. They're familiar with the area. I think that we have good basis on which to take these reports as seriously and well done as we could possibly manage. And that this, that I see this report as reflecting some very good ideas that both the developer and the fish hatchery have an opportunity to review, and it will be interesting to see what comes back from them. There's a lot of mitigation and monitoring in this report, and I think that's very good for the kind of work that's going to be done in this area. I look at the depth of the aquifer and where the work is actually being done, and the types of materials that it would not impact the aquifer. The testing wells are done at the lowest portion of the property where the aquifer is considered to be closest to the surface, and that further back on the property where a good portion of the building will be done, the aquifer is considered to be deeper. So I'm interested in the details of this report, and I'm pleased with the kind of work that's come through that report.
Thank you. I think Councillor Holmes is ahead of you, Councillor Booth. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I just have some questions regarding amenity contributions. That's all right?
Go ahead.
Did you want to talk more about the aquifer? Maybe.
Oh, I wanted to respond to Councillor
Oh,
Peaks,
go
but
ahead.
I
Yeah, go ahead. So let's
Okay.
keep things in order, if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Peak, the questions that I'm asking are questions that I am asking as a councillor and as representing the residents of Summerland. Clearly, your understanding of the report is different from my understanding of the report. Thank you.
I certainly understand that. Thank you for restating it.
Okay, Councillor Holmes.
Okay, thanks. Could you remind me why the staff recommended removing the staircase option from the amenities?
We had significant concerns around liability for the staircase. It was proposed to be a wooden staircase with gravel pads, which is very difficult to keep free of ice and snow. So if you had a week like the week we just had, actually, keeping that clear of snow, it also has a limited lifespan, so it would need to be replaced. It was looking at approximately $250,000 for cost, which would need to be replaced in 10 to 15 years. And it had a limited service area, and we're proposing to keep pedestrians on the roadways instead of a cross connection.
But how is it different than the staircase that's already at the bottom of Solly?
It was just a proposal to add an additional staircase, and when we reviewed it with operations and our staff, we recommended that it not remain a part of the project for those costs of maintenance, costs of liability, and replacement cost and time.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wish we had more discussion on that. I think it's kind of a shame. I think that's a really important piece of pedestrian infrastructure for connecting uptown to the lakeshore, both for residents and tourists. I think it's what a shortcut down to the lake. So I guess my next question is, what are we going to do with that right away now? If we're never going to build a staircase there, we have this right away. What are we going to do with it?
In Lower Town, we have a significant number of sections of roads and accesses and components. Probably through a neighborhood planning process, we should review what the future plans are for those road right-of-ways. A lot of the Lower Town was designed on a two-dimensional map somewhere probably back east, without consideration of the contours of the area. So you have roads that run up 30-40% slopes. So there's a lot of land in Lower Town that needs to be reviewed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was always thought of as a pedestrian access, but anyway. Just another question. I just wonder, how is it determined, how do you determine what is a direct cost associated with a project and what is would be an amenity?
So, as we discussed at the community, the whole meeting, so the direct costs are the things that they need in order to make the development work. So, for example, you need to bring water to the site. So the cost for the pipes and the valves and the so forth in the right-of-way in order to have water for the site are direct costs. To bring electrical that's adequate to service the buildings is a direct cost. The cost to upgrade the sewer main on Lakeshore to make it a bigger main is a direct cost. Where it got complicated around, particularly Solly, is Solly is actually operating with a collector level of traffic already, but as part of our district planning, we don't have proposals to upgrade it to a collector status. So that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult to have it referred to as a direct cost. So that's where we look to other options such as amenity contribution or DCC projects to fund those projects through development.
But certainly Latimer, and I would even argue Solly, the only reason those roads need to be upgraded is to handle the increased traffic being created by the development, right? That's the only reason we were even talking about it.
What the planner just stated was that the the traffic on Solly at present, with the additional subdivisions that have occurred over the last, 10 to 20 years, and there's a number of newer ones that have provided more traffic, that we're probably overdue to designate Solly as a collector.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes good sense to upgrade it to where it's necessary, and it would also handle this.
Well, it's easy to say
The
that-
planner's just going to make a comment. Thank you.
Just gonna make a comment. I think that was, to answer that question, I think that was recognized, that Latimer in particular is going to be over 95% of the additional traffic is on there is going to be from this development, which is why they proposed the full cost as part of their contribution, recognizing that their traffic is going to upgrade that.
So that's pretty much the full cost to upgrade
But,
Latimer.
but it's an amenity contribution, not a direct cost associated with the project.
So there's a portion of it that is a direct cost. So in that report, we outlined so there's pieces that are required, the left-hand turn bay, the expansion of the intersection, the access point, those are all, so not the full works are considered part of the amenity. The direct costs are still there. So phase one has a series of direct costs that are outlined in the traffic engineer's report. Then those are direct costs. Those are not part of the amenity. The amenity is to upgrade it to collector status, so putting in the full width, putting in the sidewalks and so forth. The direct cost components, in order to handle the traffic volume for the first phase, for example, they need to build an access, right? They need to rebuild that intersection with Solly in order to create a left-hand turn bay and proper view angles. Those are not part of the amenity. Those are direct costs. Those costs are going to be taken on from them prior to their first building permit being issued, if that's where this goes.
Okay.
A couple more.
Go ahead.
And also, how, the hydro poles that are going underground, who benefits from that? What is the thinking behind this would be an amenity for the benefit of the neighborhood?
So these poles, I understand, are the poles to the north of the line, servicing line that they're bringing up from Lakeshore. So this would be the neighborhood, the existing neighborhood around Gillespie, in that area. I understand this would improve their view corridors if these lines were undergrounded. Looking from the development down, it has some potential, I guess, to reduce views, but they're further down the slope than the direct view corridors for the project. So they need to underground or do their servicing to bring up the higher voltage lines from Lakeshore to connect through. But that doesn't include an upgrade for the other connections which go out to the individual homes that are north of where they're doing their service lines.
And again, I would suggest that's probably a direct cost more than an amenity,
So just to clarify, so the direct cost piece is their servicing. So the lines that they need in order to service their development that are coming up from Lakeshore are not a part of the amenity. It's a part of the direct cost for them to service. They would leave poles that are servicing other existing development, and that's what's proposed as an amenity. So it's not actually something that would service the project proposed.
And we do have to be, there is legislation around what is considered the direct cost. Obviously, there's a certain amount of subjectivity, but we can't say this is a direct cost when we can't when we can't show that, that the subdivision can't be done, or there's not export report. So we try in any case to figure out what is the maximum that we can put as a direct cost as a versus an amenity contribution, but it needs to be a direct relation to the actual development. Which is why so many of them have a piece that is, like the servicing, but those lines don't have to be moved underground in order to provide the servicing to to a typical standard in the municipality. Well, we don't have to move, and that's the point, is that we don't, and, council also has the opportunity, if you're not, with amenity contributions are always tricky because they're volunteered by the developer with certain discussion and what council hopes to see out of any development. If what's on the table right now is what's on the table, if council feels that the lines going underground are just not that important and there's something else that you want to see, then you need to let staff know that, and we go back and we work with the developer to come up. It's not set in stone. This is just from conversations we've had and conversation with developer. This is the proposal at this point in time. It could change and it is open for more discussion if there's something in there that you would like to see something different on.
Councillor Barkwell and then Councillor Booth.
I appreciate Councillor Holmes sort of digging into what's an amenity and what's a direct cost, and and as I understand it, you know, there's the minimum that would be required for the subdivision to work, and that's a direct cost, and then while they're working on that spot, such as telephone lines and power lines, putting them underground is a little bit extra. Now, whether that's our priority, that's a good question. I don't think we had that question raised before. Maybe we would rather see that $100,000 go towards a stairwell. I mean, these are just opinions, really, after you get to the point of what is absolutely necessary for the development. And right now, my opinion is in line with staff's. You know, I see real problems with maintaining a stairwell, and I'm not particularly sorry to see those funds spent other ways. But my original question was for Mr. Strachan. So if I understand it correctly about this sloughing, you expect that now that the developer has seen the report, that they'll come back with some way of maybe addressing the risk of the sloughing in the areas that, you know, where the water comes out and the deer run through and such. Is that, do I understand you correctly there?
There's sort of two parts to that. Yeah, the developer likely will look at that and provide a response to the report. And we would hope that they would make consideration to that. But there's also a second part to that is riparian impact. So they've been made aware of the potential of a risk of sediment in entering into a water course. So they then enter into requirements to ensure that they're not causing that.
That's why. So
there's other components of legislation that come into effect.
That's
with
why
the
I
province.
sort of brought up you know, maybe it's covered under the environmental requirements that we have already. So I don't know if this is a question or maybe just a comment from you. It seems to me that the main concern is, okay, if you start digging your basements or your parking lots and you might dig to a depth where we hit the aquifer. I mean, that's the concern that some people have, but I haven't seen where they've suggested, well, why don't you just drill some holes to a depth that's 10 meters beyond in the places that you're actually going to be digging and prove or disprove whether you're going to hit any aquifer. I mean, is that something that has been talked about at all, or what?
So they've done so the original PITO reports, as well as the Rockland reports for geotechnical engineer, did a series of pits to determine what the depth of material was, and what they've listed out is the shallowest point to the aquifer is approximately 20 meters. So I don't think there's been any discussion necessarily of hitting the aquifer, more so that what was being the compaction or the installation of foundation would compress or cause impact to the aquifer.
Okay, so
none of the reporting, professional reporting, has given an indication that there's a risk of the aquifer being hit.
Okay.
It's more the materials above causing an impact to an aquifer.
And so Golder is entirely satisfied that the number of holes and the locations of the holes that they've made sort of establish where the aquifer is in that area, and for the basis of their report, I guess?
I wouldn't say that, because in the Golder report, they talk to additional forms of testing for this component.
Okay.
So you have to take it in the context it's been provided. They've only provided you based on the information they've received. Would it be ideal to have more information? Well, it's always ideal to have more information. And that's where it becomes tricky for council, because you have to weigh the application in the context of what you've received, and whether there's adequate or not is really up to council, and whether you feel comfortable with your decision-making around the application to proceed to public hearing based on what you've received to date.
And is there an opportunity to say, okay, what additional testing would give you the level of, a different level? I mean, we just sort of take it as it comes, don't we?
The Golder report lists sort of two areas of risk. One is with the compaction of construction. And they agreed with the findings of the other engineers in regards to the impact because of the way the sediments have been laid and how long they've been buried for, that their maximum compaction level is essentially stable, so when you add things to the top of it, it's not going to cause
Okay.
further But the other component that has not been discussed is this movement of vibration horizontally down the slope that could cause potential sloughing in and around the headwater and that's something new. So it's definitely going to be some kind of response around that. We're going to require it from a water protection component. So we'll have to see what they come back with. But those are two separate sort of components with it. We were mostly focused when our discussions have been mostly focused on this vertical compaction risk. We haven't really looked at this beyond the overflow or things. So Golder found out more about the aquifer head as well. I wasn't aware that there's portals of the aquifer that are opening and closing. So that's something new that I was not aware of, that there's new spouts where it's starting to come out, and then there's other ones that sort of close off. So it's got some diversity, and it comes out of an area, not just a single source. It's not a stream coming out of the ground, which is interesting.
I think, Councillor Barkwell, there's some real good detail in the Golder report. When you look at, for example, page 231 of the whole thing, it's 612 of theirs, where they actually state that compact silty soils above the water table generally require considerable effort to compact to a higher level of compaction than is already present. Large ride-on vibratory rollers, etc., are capable of increasing the density only to a depth of about 30 centimeters. So, to have it, there's no discernible effect, even just a meter or so below. But what they do discuss is the different types of shock waves and the different types and how deep they actually go. And there's more detail in there that it's not so much compaction as it is the type of shock wave that will go to various depths. And without sort of rereading that, but they're talking about compression, shear, and Raleigh waves as to what how those are attenuated given the types of material that you're putting your vibratory type of thing happening above it. And so I think, I know it took me 2 full passes to read this thing and look at the detail. We're talking about 6 hours of going through it in great detail to understand some of the aspects of the report. And so we really do need to read these things in great detail to understand. And you and I, with our agricultural backgrounds, can have a better understanding of soils and what happens to them given different soil types. So it certainly is, it's not a particularly easy report to read, but it does require a real good focused effort. I think Councillor Boot had a question, and then Councillor Traynor.
I do have a couple of comments. The first one, Mr. Mayor, is comment about what you just said. I too have read the document, and yes, they do agree that the the compaction from above is not going to be significant and won't cause the low risk to the turbidity. However, Mr. Strachan has just stated that something that has arisen in their report is their addressing the horizontal movement of water and sloughing, and the fact that the water, and I'll just read from their summary, Shaughnessy Springs are reported to emerge from many existing locations over an area of sloping ground. It is further reported that from time to time new areas of flow temporarily emerge, resulting in erosion or sloughing of the ground, causing turbidity events. We all know that, and Mr. Strachan just mentioned it again, that there's not a single source of water going to the aquifer, or a single aquifer, resulting in the water that comes up at Shaughnessy Springs, whether or not it's above ground or below ground at that point. It's like a sheet of water. And I had considerable discussion with Mr. Strachan before Christmas about the veracity, I guess, of the 2 monitoring wells that they have or are proposing to monitor the turbidity. How can 2 monitoring wells give you a true indication of what actually may be happening in terms of turbidity at other areas that when you're looking at this sheeting effect of the water there? That was my question to Mr. Strachan. And I know that all of council knows that I asked that question. And it came forward to the rest of council as well. And I still am not convinced that knowing, it says it right here in the Golder and Associates report, that knowing that the water, it does not come from a single source, it has never been mapped by the province. How can 2 static monitoring wells truly indicate where there is turbidity in that general area? I'm not expecting an answer. I guess it's a rhetorical question,
Well,
but I have a real concern
Oh,
with
no,
that.
I understand, and I guess where I come from on that is that, that's why if there's additional monitoring wells or greater degree of sophistication of the wells, then that may be required. The other thing is that they do suggest that they're looking at, you would have to have at least 4 months of background turbidity data to establish the baseline as to what is happening. And the data that was presented, for example, earlier on, indicated that the NTUs of the boreholes was much higher at one point than the actual spring water. And they figured that that was basically due to how the construction of the boreholes and the compaction of the material around the base of the boreholes. So it's a matter of the sophistication of the boreholes and the monitoring techniques, and that's why they feel they have to go to a baseline monitoring period when there's nothing happening at all to determine their baseline is NTUs was very low. It's the same sort of thing that we do when we're looking at turbidity in our own water supply. So there's a lot of information, and certainly there's what they're looking at there, what you and I are addressing are the impacts at depth in terms of the what you call the sheet water, the actual water movement down in the sand layers below. And but what pops up in the Shaughnessy Springs area is coming from a number of sources, I would imagine. And so they want to be able to monitor any turbidity events that are arising from the area of construction that would be on that southeast section more, I would think. So anyway, it's a good discussion. Anybody else? Councillor Traynor.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I think that we'll never, I think we all know this, we'll never have certainty on the water situation. I think at some point we just have to take the information we have and all just ask ourselves whether we're comfortable with it and with the level of risk. The second thing is, and maybe this has been addressed already, but if turbidity was to occur, do we know what kind of damage that may or may not occur? And would that have long-term effects? Would it just involve stopping construction and waiting till it settles? Is there a plan for that?
The proposal that's outlined in the strategy is to stop construction and move from there. To answer the rest of that question, we can't.
Yeah.
We don't know.
So we don't really know what kind of damage it would cause if there was turbidity.
But we do know what Freshwater Fisheries has told us would be the result if they had long-term
Okay.
sedimentation. It would impact their operations significantly.
Long-term,
The fish
okay.
would die, essentially. So they have a recycling system in place, as far as we understand, that allows for them to recycle water for a period of hours. So when they have these smaller sloughing events, they can recycle the water through to deal with that. But if it's a longer-term impact, that's exactly why we're having these questions. Is if it is a longer-term impact and they can no longer use the water, they would have to find a different source of water.
Okay. Thanks.
Anybody else? Counselor Peak.
Yeah, there was discussion about the waves, the Raleigh waves and whatever, traveling, and two of the more severe things were pile driving and blasting. Are the developers planning on doing either of those things?
No,
No, they're not.
no. Neither one of those construction components are proposed as part of the development project.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions from council to planner? Okay, would someone like to bring the a resolution forward for, I guess we've got three resolutions there. One is to, the first two are to receive the aquifer protection strategy, and the amenity one is the number 2. How should we do this here?
Well, first of all, I would see what motion, I would think you would want to bring each of your motions separately, because any motion can come forward.
Yeah, okay. So Councillor Peak.
Yes, I'll bring that the review of the Aquifer Protection Strategy Report by Golder Associates dated January 4, 2018 be received.
A seconder, please. Councillor Traynor, thank you. Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. None opposed. Thank you. Number 2, someone like to bring the second resolution? Councillor Peak.
That the proposed amenity contribution letter from the applicants dated January 4th, 2018 be received.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Barkwell, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry that I had to leave. I think crisis was averted, so poor baby. With regards to this amenity contribution, and I may have missed it, if this is received as the proposal, does that mean that this is it for negotiations on amenities?
If you receive it now, I mean, you could still make change. No, you could still suggest that you could still have further conversation, and then suggest that we go back and ask them. It all depends what they will volunteer to us, but you could do it now. The agreement is quite open. It would talk about the minimum contribution for these things, so that if your other opportunity is if you have a public hearing and you heard that there was support, but that the amenity contributions were just too low for something, council could look to increase it at that time. If it was something brand new that you added in at that time, or that you changed to move it down, that would be new information, basically, and you would have to redo the public hearing. But to make it a little bit more robust, or to ask for one last thing, would be all right.
Okay,
so
thank
there
you.
still is room.
Councillor Holmes.
I guess the problem I have with the amenity contribution is that there's kind of an assumption, and I don't know where this assumption came from, that the impact on the roads will just be the top end of Solly and just that one piece of Latimer. And the whole consideration of Gillespie, McDonald Street, the bottom of Solly, the rest of Latimer, that isn't even taken into consideration. And all these streets are going to be impacted, and all those should be taken into consideration when you're looking at the amenity contributions and DCCs and everything like that. It reminds me of when I was driving around Romania and Bulgaria, that you're driving on these really wide paved roads, and then all of a sudden it just turns into the goat path, and you wonder why that is, and the only reason is because that was the point where the European Commission funding ran out, and so I think we just got our home. We're just balkanizing Lower Town.
So it's also a function, I think, unfortunately, of our bylaws and the state of our bylaws, and we talked about this quite a bit at that committee of the whole meeting, is the consistency on how we apply criteria to developments, what we've required other developers to do for the developments. The broadening of the DCCs is the biggest thing, is because they're paying fairly significant DCCs for road improvements. Unfortunately, some of those road improvements aren't they're not named in our DCC bylaws right now, but DCC, the road improvements for subdivisions would generally not be a very big topic of conversation for municipalities that have DCCs, because that's what the DCC is for, is to make sure that the surrounding roads get upgraded to match so we mustn't forget that there is that contribution to the DCCs as well, and that it is a council's intention, I believe, to really look at those wording in the DCCs and broaden it.
Something else? No, Councillor Peak?
Yeah, in consideration of the discussion that we've had about amenities even this evening at this table, is there opportunity as we move forward, even if we receive this particular report on the amenities, to look at not just applying, well, there's been questions and discussions around underground works going as part of an amenity. If we change where that money was applied, or if there was consideration for a greater amount on another amenity thing, is still in the works for an opportunity, even if we just receive this report?
If you just receive it, it still is. What I would recommend is that you don't go to public hearing until you're substantially in consensus with what the amenity contribution says, because that's when you couldn't change it substantially, would be after the public hearing. But if you receive this one for information now and you schedule another meeting specifically to talk about the amenity contribution, knowing you have this much money being offered, but you're not happy, and it was before the public hearing. But you want the public to have the most complete information, accurate information possible as you go into a public hearing.
And if I may, a supplement. So you wouldn't use the opportunity of the public hearing to hear back from the public in order to reformulate how you might dress amenities?
The only, from the advice that we've received and past experiences, is you could increase your amenity contribution. So again, we would use wording in the development agreement that was fairly open, so it allowed it to shift upwards. But if it was a substantial change, so somebody at the public hearing based their comments on the fact that there was going to be underground power lines, and then you said we're not doing that anymore, that would be new information that would be considered substantial enough that you would want to do. You could be challenged if you didn't redo the public hearing.
So council may want to consider doing a discussion on amenities, even if we receive the report tonight.
That's right. You may decide to, between now and a public hearing, just have one more conversation on the amenity contribution.
Thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Booth?
If I just might request further clarification on that, would that be a public special meeting to discuss this particular thing, or?
Again, I mean, it could be a committee of the whole meeting. It could be, again, the amenity contribution comes from the developer, but it's direction that you would be giving staff to go to negotiate with the developer to see if it's something they're interested in. What we have on the table right now is the amount of money they're willing to contribute and what going. So it would be a public meeting where you're giving us
So we could have the discussion at a public meeting?
Of what you would like us to be talking to them about and negotiating with them. Those negotiations, of course, with the developer are not public, but then it would come back to say, this is what, subsequent to the conversation, this is what the developer is willing to put forward.
Okay, so would that be considered, like it's an extra meeting? Would it be a?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Well, if you wanted it.
Well, I mean, it's outside of our regular council schedule is what I'm saying.
It would just be a special, I would do it in a committee, the whole meting probably.
Okay.
Council would just pass a motion to hold a meeting on such and such a day, and just like any other additional meeting that you have, if that's what you want to do.
So it would be an additional meeting?
If you want it to be, or if you want to wait 2 weeks and have it at your council meeting or your committee, the whole meeting.
Okay, so maybe I have to rephrase this. Is there an opportunity to have the discussion at I don't know what you want to call it, a meeting that is not a regular public meeting, it's not a committee of the whole meeting, would it be considered a special meeting?
It's, every meeting
Is it
that's
called
on-
a special meeting?
Every meeting is a special meeting with the exception of the 22 that we have scheduled in the year.
Thank you. My next question is, does a special does a special meeting require 2 months, or 2 weeks' notice? Like a
No.
public? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Councillor Carlson.
Just add, I asked the question, but it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily totally opposed to what's being proposed here. I just want to make sure that if we do receive this letter there's an option to, and some wiggle room.
Adjust.
So
Yes.
I know a lot of conversation has happened, and I don't think that we need to sit down and have a full meeting with council to talk about what these proposals would mean. You know, if Latimer improvements need to be done, maybe a change could be made, and some of it could include different intersections, for example. So if that fits within receiving this, then I don't have a problem moving that forward.
Thank you. So we got a mover and seconder on that, on number 2? Oh, sorry, Councillor Barkle.
I would like to see a discussion of the amenity contributions on the next committee of the whole meeting. I have some thoughts, but, you know, if I give them out now, it's like we're having the discussion now when it
Yeah,
might be
exactly.
more appropriate in a couple of weeks at the committee of the whole. But with that, yeah, okay, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So if I may, we can then vote on receiving this at any rate, and then have
Yeah,
a discussion
okay.
about.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Opposed? 1 opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 3. Okay. Now, this was to basically be directing staff to, depending upon facilities, et cetera, right?
If council is interested in introducing a motion to move to public hearing, I would suggest that you don't pick the date today, that we pick, it will, I know that we have some conflicts in councilors' attendance. It would be important, obviously, that all councilors are attendance, and we do have some absence at the beginning of February, so we'd have to look for a date in the beginning of February possibly, and then we would have to make sure that we had time to do the adequate advertising of it rather than scheduling it today. So I would pass a motion to schedule a public hearing would be appropriate, and then we would give details from there.
Councillor Carlson?
I think that sounds like a very good idea, and so I would move that staff be directed to schedule a public hearing at the earliest time and date that would meet the statutory requirements and for notification when suitable facilities are available.
Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion on that? Sorry, Councillor Holmes.
Just that, that the calendars are filling up pretty quickly, you know, and so it can't just depend on facilities being available, it also has to depend on our availability.
No, absolutely. That would be the first, we'll do it. If council passes motion today, we will tomorrow be in contact with suggested dates and looking at where we're at.
I guess unsaid with that is that a date that all council can attend.
Yes, absolutely. No, definitely.
Councillor Holmes.
Sorry, and again, just so you're envisioning it'd be like a full day of public hearings, all day in the evening, and then we would need to meet quite quickly after that, have a council meeting because we can't take any more information.
That's right,
after
it's
that,
usually, yeah, and then just to the full, I'm not sure, it might be better to do an afternoon and an evening. We just were talking about having more than one session and having it broken up, so it might be an afternoon and an evening, and then we would have to see whether or not, we wouldn't schedule the following one until we knew that we needed any further ones. So that's on that one, and then the other, sorry, I lost
So
one.
then we would need a a council, either a
Right.
special council meeting or however, for us to debate it.
That's right, and you, sometimes, even on large ones, you go right into the debate wherever it is, you have your council meeting set up and you start your debate immediately following up the public hearing, and other times you schedule a special council meeting the next day, but it's recommended not to be very long, because sometimes that new information comes inadvertently, and then you need to redo it.
But to finish your public hearing at 10 in the evening and then proceed for a debate till 3 in the morning is not my idea of a good time. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just
Councillor
have
Boot?
one question, if I can remember what it is now. Has to do with the public hearing. Oh, the whatever dates, I guess, are proposed for the public hearing in terms of investigating when the facilities might be available, they will be at least 2 weeks after the next council meeting?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily 2 weeks after the next council meeting, 2 weeks from, we have to do the statutory advertising, but it'll have to be after the next council meeting, because we've talked about, there may be some more information that needs to come to council, but unless council directs us to be, there's no reason that it has to be 2 weeks after the next.
But won't we be hearing more information from the applicant and the fisheries at the next council meeting? That would be considered new information, right?
Right, but it doesn't have to be 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be a 2 week.
Yeah, council can continue to receive new information up to and
The date.
until the closing of the public hearing.
Right.
So there's no statutory requirement like for council to receive new information. It's just you can't, once the public hearing is closed and completed,
Yeah.
after that, you can't receive new information.
So we can still advertise for the public hearing tomorrow, for example, or later this week, start the advertising for it to be in the second week of February or something. But even if you're having another meeting and getting more information, that's perfectly fine.
Right, but if it's scheduled for the second week of February, then it does fall outside of that 2 weeks after the 22nd.
But it didn't, the 2 weeks is irrelevant. It doesn't need to be.
As long as it's 2
Boy,
weeks
I'm
from
having a
today.
hard time getting my point across tonight.
But can I explain it? I think I got it.
I understand what's being said. I'm just having difficulties in asking my question so that I get the answer that I'm looking for. So
We all have
if,
fun with that.
pardon me?
Nothing, it's okay.
We know that our next regular scheduled council meeting is January the 22nd, and we have more information coming. And then, unless it's held in that week, so that somewhere between the 23rd and the 26th, it won't be held until sometime in February, correct?
Right?
I mean,
No, it could.
It doesn't matter when it doesn't make.
Well, it does matter to me, because I'm not going to be here.
But that's what we've already stated, that all of council will be in attendance so we will
Okay.
schedule a time, but it doesn't make any difference legislatively.
So it could be sometime between the 23rd and the 26th of January, provided we get the notice in the paper starting tomorrow or something like that.
Legislatively, it could if it would work, but it's not likely with our own schedules. But it
Okay.
could be legislatively.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we are still voting on this, aren't we? Okay.
We have a
Mover and a
We have a
second.
mover and a second.
Okay. All in favor? Motion carries, none opposed. Thank you very much. Okay. What are we doing here? I'd like to have a motion for a short adjournment, please. Councillor Holmes? Councillor Dawson, thank you. All in favor?
Push for the, are you going to be getting all the figuring?
Yes.
I'm just going to the 5th.
Just a week.
You're going into the 5th period. Yeah. Well, if we have a discussion.
That's the second one. Yeah, exactly.
2 weeks from now.
Yes. Oh.
What day is that? That's like, that's the 22nd. Yeah, so how long do we have, and then we have to receive and digest whatever officially is and whatever additional information.
We have to look at the schedules. I think I got information that there's going to be a council away on those dates, so we'll just have to find the dates that all councillors are going to be
So
here.
it couldn't be any more than 2 weeks from the 22nd.
It's unlikely.
It's unlikely,
Okay.
highly unlikely.
And it's more likely that it would be.
The beginning of February. That would be my guess, the week of February 5th, unless there's something I don't know.